Are you ready?
We're going.
We're going? Daniel, this episode, just warning you, is going to be off the rails.
I mean, it hasn't even started yet, so we haven't really defined where the rails are. I feel like it can't be off the rails yet.
Like there's a lot of stuff, and you don't even know half the thing. Okay, so I mean we're in clear pre-show territory here. So I watched the F1 qualifying today for Singapore just to date this podcast aggressively. And they were talking about the gyro cams on the cars. They have like gyroscopically stabilized cameras that they've started using this year.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you say about this because I feel like I've seen some of the footage from that, and it seems like it could give you motion sickness. Like, doesn't it kind of like wobble back and forth a little bit?
It's supposed to be like horizon stable, basically.
Oh, okay.
And they've been using them in MotoGP for a while, which is the motorcycle racing. And they've started using them in F1 earlier this year. And they were just kind of like talking about the camera a little bit. And so I tried to do some research to see what company provides these cameras. And boy, is there not enough information on the specific cameras that they use for these F1 cars. I would love to know about 1,000 times more than what I was able to learn. But
do you think it's something like super custom, or do you think it's some kind of off-the-shelf camera?
Like whenever I looked up the name of the company and I was looking at trying to like figure out their gyro cams, I said that weird. That's fine. Gyro. Oh, Daniel, we gotta stop doing the French bit. It's not good. People are gonna throw rocks at me. Anyways. It's like these are like MotoGP cameras or whatever. Like that's what they call them. It's almost like they're purpose built for these.
It doesn't surprise
race
me.
applications.
I mean, there's probably plenty of funding for it. Like it makes sense that it could be a purpose built camera.
Yeah, and like they had a diagram of like here's how we run the wire we mount, and here's how we run the wires, and this is where the transmitter goes, and it's like multiple different components, and it's kind of like a system that they implement. So I assume that they do something similar. I'm surprised that. I'm curious like how that works with F1 because they get real paranoid about everything as far as it comes to weight.
Oh, yeah.
And so like...
well, and there's also like a safety concern there. I mean, if you've got a camera, it's exposed in some way.
Sure.
And so you have to make sure that's secure to where it's not going to go flying off the car at 200 and whatever miles an hour.
Well, so Red Bull was going to have custom Revelry like paint for the Singapore race and the Circuit of America race. And... they decided to not include that paint because they were like, it's going to be too heavy and we haven't been winning enough, even though we're still winning. And so they're not doing the custom paint because it's too heavy.
I saw the paint thing and I was like, that car looks sweet. And all I saw was them saying, this is what they would have used if they had used it. And I was like, what happened?
It looks sick.
I didn't know this was
because it's too heavy.
Wow.
Like, the cameras have to weigh more than the paint.
Well, you would think, but paint is surprisingly heavy, I think, like, in a large enough quantity.
True.
But I agree. The camera probably does weigh more.
I don't know. They're all trying to get them to minimum weight anyway, so it's like every extra pound, whatever, but I don't know.
How does that work with the weight of the driver?
It's included. So like, for instance, earlier this year, George Russell won a race, and they took the win away from him because after they met, they weighed the car and the driver, and the cumulative weight of car plus driver has to be over a certain amount.
He had too many donuts that morning.
No, they were underweight. And that was the problem. And they're like, well, maybe he's like, well, maybe we ran too much rubber off the wheel or that sort of thing. And that was the problem.
Like, how precise does it have to be?
Like, it has to be over. And Mercedes was like, well, no, we think Russell didn't like, he lost too much weight during the race. Like he sweated too much or something. And the joke, he was like, yeah, I should have like had that extra croissant or whatever.
It's crazy because you would think that they would just, let's just sandbag. Let's go 15 pounds over.
No, everything is, it's tenths. It's thousandths of seconds. I mean, you look at the qualifying, it's like, okay, here's the first team at like 1 minute 30.006 seconds, and then the next team down is 1 minute 30.08 seconds. Like, it's so tight that like the amount of fuel in the car, the amount that the driver has sweated, like how much rubber's on the tire, the weight of the paint, it all matters.
Man, that's crazy.
And so it's like, I don't know, I don't understand how they like slap cameras on these cars. Like if they're like, they say you have to run at least one camera and they just account for it in the weight.
I mean, probably so, right? Because ultimately, it like money is a big factor here, right? And having a better production, having something that's more engaging.
Oh yeah,
it brings in more fans, brings in more funding. I mean, that's clearly a motivation to do this. It's not just people wanting stuff that looks cool.
The production quality of watching F1 races is very good.
Yeah. Well, they do the FPV drone stuff now too, right? And then
They haven't implemented that in the actual races yet.
Okay.
But it's going to be cool when they eventually do, and I bet they will, because it's like they're on the forefront of the technology as far as like how are we capturing and what can we do to make this more and more interesting. Because like the more engaging they can make watching the race, and instead of like a top-down helicopter shot, just cars driving around a circuit would probably really boring.
Yeah, it would.
But like the announcers and all like the commentary around it and all the drama and the visuals of the race make it really good. And like you can watch the race and just pick a driver and see first person view of the race itself. It's all really cool and really high tech, and I don't know.
That's pretty neat. I mean, for the stuff we talk about on this show, it's kind of cool seeing advancements in that area, because I think it's really easy to imagine like what new things could there really be at this point. You know, like we've been televising, you know, NASCAR and, you know, football games and stuff for so many years. Like, how could there be anything new? But I mean, even now we're seeing as camera technology, you know, gets better, like there's these new things you can do, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it seems like they're always innovating. I mean, you have these cars that are going around a track at 200 miles an hour, 210 miles an hour, and you're transmitting wireless video off of these cars while they're zipping around.
It's crazy, and they're doing it for, I assume, all of them, right? Like it's not just like a couple cars,
all
right?
20
like,
cars, yeah.
Yeah, and so they, that's. There's some amount of bandwidth available. Like, it's cool if they can do that.
It's super cool that like live during a race, you can pull up the F1 app and you can say, I want to see where Max Verstappen is right now, and just watch his camera and listen to his audio coming through the comms, and you can just like watch the race from someone's perspective.
I'm really curious if that's going to come to other sports too. Like imagine watching an NFL football game and like I want to see from the perspective of the quarterback on this team. Like it seems like that could happen.
I feel like it's there if they want it, and like things like the NFL are just so slow to pick things up. But because F1 is such a quote unquote small sport, I mean like billions and billions of dollars, but it feels like they embrace the technology. I mean the cars are prototypes, right? They're one of one, or two of one, or one of two, and like everything is on the edge basically, including it seems like the broadcasting.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That went a lot longer than I thought we were going to talk about that, Daniel. We got to start the show.
Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
So Daniel has left the room to go get his water, and he has left me all alone with the microphones. And so I can just do whatever I want here. And what I am going to do is I'm going to make a minor correction because he's not here to stop me. In a previous episode, Daniel mentioned something about a Kickstarter being a segment, and I would like to correct him and that it was a bit, not a segment, and he was wrong. Oh, wait, he's here. Shh. Nobody say anything. Hi, Daniel. Nothing.
That wasn't suspicious at all. Unfortunately for you, I'm the one who edits the show.
That's fine. Just you won't even notice. I have a few things here on the notes, Daniel. The first one here is weird film update.
Okay.
And that's not as exciting as you would hope it to be.
Well, tell me about this weird film update.
Okay, so previously we had talked about how my birthday was coming up, and I had suggested that my parents should get me for my birthday, or I told them some weird films, and we had talked about how great it would be if my dad had somehow found Santa 100.
Yes, I remember this now.
Yeah, so that day has come. My birthday is imminent, and they were like, here's some film, and they did successfully not buy me any Ultramax 400 or Fuji stocks, but they got Ilford Black and White and Ektar 100, which are the other two most popular films you can buy. They did not succeed in finding anything that was weird. Nothing from Lomachrome, no Santa 100.
Yep.
Nothing like no Street Candy, no Cinestill 800, nothing like that.
So we got filthy casual film, basically.
I think that normal people don't know what weird film is.
I think you're probably right. I think normal people think that all film is a little weird at this point.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if I go into my search browser here and I type weird film, it comes up with the Weird Al Yankovic story.
I was going to say, I don't know if I'd be searching weird film on the internet.
That was actually a really funny movie. I think I gave that movie like 5 stars on Letterboxd.
I think I remember you or somebody else telling me about it, but I still haven't seen it.
It was definitely me. I thought that movie was hilarious,
Yeah.
and you should absolutely watch it. It's got what's his name?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, Ratcliffe.
Yep.
Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al.
Yep.
It's perfect. I love it so much.
Yeah, I do need to watch that.
Anyway, okay, that was it. So let's talk about this PolarPro film vault situation.
Yes. Speaking of film, right?
Yep.
So I saw this, pretty soon before we recorded the show. I got an email one morning from PolarPro,
of course,
as happens, and I said, I think Lucas needs this, and I'm curious if you felt the same way.
I have a lot of thoughts here, Daniel. I have like so many thoughts. I have multiple bullet points, and this is where the show goes off the rails. So, first, it is a film container holder, and it is like has rounded edges. It can hold 2 to 5 canisters of film. It's very bespoke, and it's like
Peter McKinnon.
Has brass sides and a black top, and it's got an O-ring around the insides for water and dust intrusion. And the O-ring is bright orange. This thing looks great.
I think it looks pretty good, and when I see PolarPro, / Peter McKinnon, I'm like, this thing is going to be $300, and it was surprisingly not that expensive.
Yeah, surprisingly not. So I thought that it looked sick and so I went to my local large language model to find the appropriate metaphor or adjective to describe how sick I think that these film canister holder looks. And I want to note here that in the podcast notes it says, Daniel, buckle up.
It does say that, and I'm definitely worried.
Okay, yeah. So I asked it for just the sweatiest metaphors I could come up with, and we're gonna be here a while, so because there's too many good ones. It is sick as a rodeo clown after a chili cook-off. It is sick as a sailor chugging jalapeno juice in a hurricane. It's sick as a hangover at a bagpipe convention. It's sick as a skydiver with vertigo. That one's not very good.
No, that one's pretty weak.
It's sick as a mime trapped in a coughing competition. This is sick as a lunchador at an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Importantly, is it luchador or is it lunchador?
Dude, I read lunchador and I'm not changing it. But it's definitely sick as a jazz drummer in a polka band's mosh pit. And it is sick as a roller coaster operator at a tilt and whirl festival.
Well, I'm glad we have AI to give us these wonderful metaphors.
Yeah, Daniel, I'm not done. I was like, I need more of these, but like turn it up, more outrageous.
Yeah.
And so it said, let's turn it up to 11 with even more sweat. And I'm like, yes, please. So it's sick as a chainsaw juggler at a sneeze convention.
That's a new one.
Sick as a deep sea diver doing shots of seawater at low tide. Sick as a fire breather at a pepper spray testing lab. Sick as a moonshiner in a centrifuge challenge. Sick as a tightrope walker with a vertigo over a lava pit during an earthquake. Sick as a swamp tour guide in a boat made of allergy pills. Sick as a stunt driver at a demolition derby in a car made of bad decisions.
Now they're just getting like metaphysical on us.
Sick as a rodeo bull with lactose intolerance at a dairy farm festival.
Oh.
And then it asked me if those made me sweat enough.
I would hope so.
And I told it to crank it up. And then here's the last set here for you. It's as sick as a one-legged tap dancer at a tornado. Let me try again. It's sick as a one-legged tap dancer in a tornado of flaming lawnmowers.
I feel like these are, it's not like it's getting better. It's just getting more ridiculous.
That's what I asked for. I was like, more. It's as sick as a caffeine addicted sloth riding a jackhammer on a pogo stick in a sandstorm.
It's too much.
It's sick as a race car driver trying to parallel park a jet engine at a monster truck rally. It's as sick as an octopus in roller skates at a barf-inducing breakdancing battle on trampoline.
I feel like you could have just asked like your 10-year-old cousin about these. Like you would have gotten similar responses.
It's so good. Sick as a narcoleptic tightrope walker over a pit of breakdancing sharks with laser pointers. It's sick as a synchronized swimmer in a quicksand during a stampede of caffeinated elephants. I got 2 more. It's as sick as a unicyclist juggling chainsaws while speed-eating ghost peppers on a treadmill.
Oh my gosh.
And it is sick as a sleep-deprived goat herder trapped in a farmhouse full of sneezing clowns.
Okay, I think that's about enough from the LLMs for one day.
I feel like it I feel like it perfectly captured all of my feelings, except for the part where this is a limited of 500 units, and so I felt very motivated. If I wanted one of these ever, I should buy it.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of some immediate pressure there, right? Like, you miss it, get some FOMO.
Do you think I bought one? They're only for the 2-roll for 35 millimeter. It's like $40, and it's $50 for the 5-roll.
I definitely think that you should have bought the 2-roll. I'm thinking you probably did.
I did not buy any of them.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why.
All right.
This thing is pointless.
Hot take.
Like, it looks super, super slick. And I guess I could see some, like, it's cool to have a way to, to transport your film that's already shot. But, like, I don't know. The way I grew up, my understanding was you take your film and you put it in a Ziploc bag, and that's it.
Step one.
Yeah.
Put it in a Ziploc bag. There is no step two.
I got some finished rolls, and I want to keep them safe and not wet. I'm going to throw them in a Ziploc bag. Dust-proof, waterproof.
But
done.
is this for finished rolls, or is this for not yet used rolls? I guess it's for both, maybe.
Unclear. My not yet used rolls are going to be in a refrigerator.
But like, what if you're going on a trip or something?
I don't know. You just like chuck them in the bag.
Okay.
Like, sure, maybe you have two. Maybe you have like one
2
canister
Ziploc
for
bags.
two Ziploc bags, one for new, one for old.
Okay.
But so like the selling points on this thing is that it's like, hey, here's a cool little film roll canister thing, whatever, and it looks super fancy. I'm on board with both of those. It's got an O-ring to keep like dust and water out.
Mm-hmm.
It has
which a Ziploc bag does also do,
right,
but maybe not as well.
It has a no shake design, which. Why?
I saw that in the marketing material, and they were like, Peter was very insistent that there not be any shaking. And
why?
Does if you just have a canister of film, does it, like, if you shake it, does something move around?
If it's not used, then you have a tongue of the film sticking out and like whatever. If it's used and you've rolled it all the way back in there, sure, the film could move around a little bit inside the canister, but the film's going to move around inside the canister regardless of how secure you hold the canister itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked the question, because I mean, I don't have any familiarity with film, but if the film doesn't move in the canister, then sure, I can see why it's nice to not have it rattling around in the box.
Like maybe I just don't understand enough about this, but I don't understand what not shaking film does.
Well, I mean, it's probably just like if you have this thing in your pocket, you don't want it rattling, right?
It's gonna rattle regardless.
Because you're thinking because the film rattles inside the canister,
right? Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then I don't know.
It's like it doesn't keep it any more secure than if it's just like in your bag in a Ziploc bag. I think like it looks fancy. I like that.
It does look fancy. It kind of reminds me of that the case for the DJI mic.
Sure,
it feels like a similar vibe.
Maybe you can charge your film.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm just saying. I think that this is really cool looking, and I want it for that reason. But if this was like lead lined. To keep like X-rays and radiation out, to actually keep the film pristine from any sort of noise introduction while traveling, yes, please.
Yeah,
and that's what I was hoping. When I looked at this, I was like, oh, sweet, this thing's gonna be like lead lined or something. And no, it's just not.
Just aluminum.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
But is aluminum enough to protect from like the X-rays in like airport security?
No,
it's not.
It's not. It's not going to stop any of that. And that was kind of the detractor for me on this. That's why I didn't buy it, is because I don't think that this serves really any purpose for me. I would rather have something where it's like, here's a bunch of rolls that go into a thing and like these are used and these are not, and maybe that's helpful. But otherwise, I don't know. This isn't for me.
I feel like it's kind of a luxury item thing where, like I think I've seen some other YouTubers, worked with some brand to make like a thing to hold batteries. They say like, this is for holding like 3 Sony whatever batteries or whatever, and it feels kind of along those lines, or like SD card holders, same kind of deal, where it's like, sure, like, I mean, it doesn't do anything special compared to storing them in a bag, storing them in a pouch or whatever, but it's just kind of, if you have money to spend, then here's a bespoke item.
Like, yeah, it's
probably
helpful.
it's honestly probably a good gift item for somebody.
Yeah. Definitely a good gift item. My birthday is coming up. You could reach into a bag and like pull this thing out and, oh, here's all my film and I have all of it or whatever.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that if you're really trying to capture that analog lifestyle and you want to transport yourself back to like 1975 and you want to be shooting on your Canon, even the AF one, it's not even AE one. You're just shooting on your film camera and enjoying all that analog lifestyle. You just put your film in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess doing the bag kind of is in line with the rest of film photography.
Yeah. Okay. Next on the list, I have an update for you on XT5, which I bought from you, and that is I've been shooting everything in HEIF along with RAW instead of JPEG.
Oh.
And I remember whenever I tried to shoot in HEIF on the XT3, nothing would read it. And I have not been having that problem, and I don't know if it's a different encoding on the file or if it's just that my software has updated on my computer and in Lightroom to not be a problem and be able to read those files.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, no issues with shooting the more compressed format with XT5.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because I guess I would have thought maybe it's less compatible with like preview on the computer, or
that was
something
my
like that.
issue with the XT3 and why I switched back to using JPEG. But with all the iPhone stuff being HEIF and now JPEG XL, like I was just hoping that maybe that I wouldn't have that issue going forward, and it seems like that's the case.
So what are the benefits that you get from that?
It's just smaller file size,
smaller files,
and it's not
quality better.
It's not limited to 8-bit. I don't know if you're actually getting like 10 or 12-bit files. Probably not. You're gonna need TIFF or RAW for that.
Is HEIF lossless?
No.
Okay. So it has the same problem of JPEG of being a compressed format.
It is different. I don't think that it has the same limitations as JPEG, whereas JPEG is mostly stuck in either sRGB or DCI P3 and 8-bit. I think that HEIF maybe is a little more, has more options than JPEG as a format.
I see.
But I don't actually know 100% for sure. I know there are better formats than HEIF, but it's pretty good as far as compression. You'll save whatever, like 40% of the file size compared to a JPEG of similar quality.
Really adds up, especially a 40 megapixel image.
Yeah. Yep. There's a lot of the new iPhone stuff there. It does the JPEG XL, and so I've been messing with that because I got the iPhone 16 Pro, and I was doing some background stuff, and so I'm like, okay, I need to make new backgrounds for my phone, and so I went into Lightroom and found some pictures and like cropped them to the right size, and then I exported them the highest quality that I could from RAW down to, and I was like trying to figure out what to do, and I was like, I'm going to use these JXL files instead because I know that it now supports JPEG XL, and that was fine. I took a photo that was originally 24 megapixels, and I did a super res on it in Lightroom, and then I cropped it down and exported it as 100% JXL file, and it was 60 megabytes.
Oh, wow.
60.
That's too much. That's way too much.
It's too much for the iPhone, that's for sure, because whenever you go into the wallpaper thing, and you're like, set the wallpaper, it's like, just give me about 45 seconds to 2 minutes to finish loading this thing so that you can like adjust it.
Oh, wow.
And then I was having this issue where after I would set the wallpaper, I'd go to the home screen, it was washed out. And I'd go look at the picture, I'm like, why do these look different? And the icons look saturated, but the wallpaper didn't look right. And weird. I had to restart the phone for it to go away. And apparently that's been a problem for some people since the iPhone 12, and it's just not fixed.
Weird.
Anyway, bugs. Yay. Anywho, HEIF. That was that topic.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, it's neat that they've made that available, and I'm glad the software support's a little better for it now.
Definitely. Okay, Daniel, the next thing we actually have to talk about, which is the main topic for this episode, is the GoPro 13 Hero Black. But below that is also the Osmo Action 5 because it was released basically at the same time because they're in swift competition to each other.
Yeah, it always works that way, right? Like, because we know new GoPro is coming every September. You can practically set your calendar by that the same way you do like iPhone releases at this point.
Which, speaking of, I got my new phone yesterday on like day one release, and I want to talk about that instead. So I'm going to skip over topics 2 and 3, and I want to talk about my phone.
All right.
And then if we have enough time, we can talk about the GoPro. Otherwise, we're going to push that to next week.
Okay.
So help me. Hopefully you didn't do any prep work.
Well, it doesn't matter if I did or not because I'm just along for the ride here. So.
Yep. So as previously discussed, my 12 Pro Max met an untimely death.
Yeah, mostly due to your sweat.
Yes. That is exactly why my powerful sweat, more powerful than an iPhone. More, it's more powerful than any iPhone before. Was that what they say? The most powerful.
Yeah, the most powerful sweat yet, something like that.
Anyways, whatever. So I, through much fervor and tenacity, I have successfully acquired an iPhone 16 Pro Max on day one.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
you had to wake up pretty early in the morning to get that.
Pretty proud of myself.
Yep. 7 a.m.
Yep. I got it. I don't even, no one cares what color I got.
Yep.
People don't care. Point is, I've had this phone for like 30 hours. 30 hours. And I'm ready to give my full review.
Yeah. You've had plenty of time to try out all the features. You haven't slept in the past 30 hours. You've just been using the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, one, we're going to talk about mostly like camera stuff because it's the Camera Gear podcast. Two, sometimes I feel like whenever I like tech stuff, and so I'll watch like all the reviews of all the things, and I feel like I hear the same bits over and over. Where like, I'm going to explain this feature and then have the same opinion as everybody else, and it's just like you hear the same thing, and I'm like,
yeah.
Does anyone have a new opinion?
Yeah, it does feel that way.
Daniel, I have new opinions.
Well, let's hear them.
They're probably not new. Okay, so case situation. This is actually a story. I told you earlier that this podcast was going to be all over the place. So I got the same case thing that you did, which is the magnetic back from Nomadic, which is a leather magnetic back.
It's not from Nomadic. It's from Nomad. Different company.
Okay, that has actually been impossible because there's a third company that's also Nomad, where it's like Nomads or Nomad, but it's a different Nomad, and they do it. Please, better company names.
It does seem confusing.
Anyways, I bought the same thing as you because of the capture button on the side. I didn't know like what was going to work out as far as cases, so I kind of want the case situation to shake out, and I was going to be like, well, if it doesn't have sides, that won't be a problem. That's not coming until Monday. It's Saturday, and it's already been a day, and I'm like, something's going to happen to this phone.
Absolutely.
And if it breaks, we're probably a month out from anything being able to be repaired because it's like they're still fulfilling orders.
And I mean, if we want to, really put a point on your level of care for this phone, you've had your phone for 30 hours, and I think you're currently using it as a coaster.
That is
so
accurate.
The case might have been a good idea.
Yeah, it is a $1,200 coaster right now. And I'm just going to live my life, Daniel. And I have certain bad habits and expectations of my phone, which is that I'm just going to treat it like garbage, which I probably shouldn't. I probably should be more careful. And so here we are. I'm waiting for my screen protector and my actual case. And so I've been bumming it with I took a 12 Pro Max screen protector. I just slapped it on there. It mostly kind of works. I just had it like lying around. I'm like, the other one will be here Monday. And so after, slumming it like a day without a case and thinking that it was going to be okay, I'm like, I am so paranoid that I'm going to drop this thing or I'm going to like scuff at the back or I'm going to break it in some way. I was like, that's it. Does the Apple store near us have cases?
Yeah.
Like, do they have the silicone case? I hate silicone cases because it sticks to everything. Like initially it's like soft and it's really nice to touch the silicone. And then eventually whatever is on the silicone that makes it not like that, it's probably due to my hand sweat, honestly. It just degrades whatever softness is on silicone. And then it just becomes a magnet for all dust and dog hair and dirt, and it sticks to my pocket on the inside, and it's horrible.
I haven't had an Apple silicone case in quite a while, but I did usually feel like the Apple ones were better in that regard than like the $6 ones you get on Amazon or whatever.
That is 100% true. They are better at not being horrible, but they do eventually become horrible, and that timeline is like 30 days, and they're awful.
I do kind of think it might be your sweat.
Man, let's just go with it. My sweat is too powerful for silicone. It's supposed to be waterproof. It's not sweatproof. It's not for me. Anyways, this makes me sound like a horrible creature. I'm not pitting like the aluminum on my laptop.
Yeah. I saw a picture of that online of a guy showing like, this is what happened to my MacBook, and it's from his sweat, and like there are actual divots in the metal on the MacBook.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Okay, that is not happening to me. I haven't worn like the caps off of my keys. I have on my my Keychron keyboard, but I think that's just because like it chips away after time.
I think
that's
so
like
too.
That's fingernails. That's not sweat. Regardless, the whole experience of buying a case at the Apple store, like the day after the phone releases, everyone's there to see the new stuff. And so like they have multiple people stopping you before you go in and they're like, why are you here? It's like, I just want like case shop. They go, okay, come on in. Otherwise get in that line. And you go in and it had this like whole display of all the cases, and you see the one you want. You have to you have to know that this is how it works. But fortunately I already knew, because I had bought a case like 4 years ago from them for the leather one that I had. And they're like, oh yeah, they're just right here. They just pull the drawer out and it's like a wall of drawers. And on the front of the drawer is the case. And so it's like, you just find the one you want, you just pull the drawer out and you pull the case thing out.
That's easy.
And there's a little thing on the side that's like, scan this if you want to self-checkout. And it's just like super easy. You just walk in, you pull the drawer, you find the case you want, you scan the thing with your phone, you pay for it, and you just walk out.
I mean, I would say it's so easy that it kind of makes you feel like you're stealing it a little bit.
It feels like you're stealing it. And so I like steel bought a bright yellow silicone case for my phone because it's the brightest color that I could find, because I'm so upset that you can't buy bright colored things from Apple, and I want more bright colored things. Like the new 16 colors are good. I wish they could be even brighter, and the cases could be bright. There's not a red case. There's like a maroon. The yellow is the most ostentatious color, and so that's what we have.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I have for the 15 Pro, I have the Peak Design case, and it's a beautiful banana yellow, mustard yellow.
Yeah, I like that one.
I think it's called Sunshine, maybe.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great color. I don't like that yellow as much. Like
Agreed.
The one you have feels more like highlighter yellow to me.
Yeah, I could see that. I do like the yellow of your Peak Design case more. If they had that color for the new phones, I would have bought that case. But they only come in, once again, muted like burgundy and then a forest green.
Yeah, yeah. So you got the case.
Anyways, got the case.
Not excited about the material, but like overall, how is it as a case?
That's fine. That's good. It's got enough lip. It's feels impact resistant enough. I'm feeling a little conspiratorial about the whole case situation. Like everyone wants you to buy their case. Like everyone was going to make a bunch of money as like a knock-on effect of the new iPhones because everyone needs a case now. And I've seen so many case ads; it's ridiculous. I feel like. I mean, this is not. It provides like some scratch protection, and it's got a little bit of a bounce to it if you drop the phone. But I have a hunch that the titanium rails and the Gorilla Glass that the phone uses is doing more to protect the phone from breaking than the case itself. And the case is really mostly just a scuff prevention.
Yeah,
that's my hot take.
I kind of think you might be right. Although, I mean, like the way you do the coaster thing, but I mean, a lot of people want to be able to set their phone down on a surface. And I do feel like legitimately a case both protects the screen from scuffs, as you said, and protects the camera bump on the back, that's why I had the magnetic back, is mostly to protect the camera. And I mean, legitimately, I think that's giving you more protection than you would get without a case. But yeah, in terms of like dropping the phone from some distance, I don't know that the case is really doing that much.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. Unless you have like a big old OtterBox that's ginormous and has, I don't know, shock absorbers in it. But yes, like the main purpose for the case for me is one, to even out the camera bump so it doesn't rattle as bad when I set it down. And then two, I want to be able to like, do you think that's going to get cut out by RX?
No.
Okay, good. I want to be able to do that. I want to kind of like be able to at least drop my phone from 6 inches and not feel like I'm going to chip the glass or something accidentally. And like feel okay with like tossing it on my bed or whenever I set it on top of the shower to listen to podcasts while I'm showering. See previous episode. The glass has been glass on metal. Don't love that feeling. Glass on silicone, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I bet I can't sweat through this one. So though I am plastic bagging it inside my armband now.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's just
because this way can still. I mean, there's still ways this way can get to the phone.
Yeah, so. Ziploc bags, Daniel. That's really the theme for this podcast.
That's your new favorite thing.
Okay, so we're gonna get to cameras. I swear, this is really just mostly my thoughts on iPhones. Apparently, Jesus, this is not a camera gear podcast today. We talked about cameras earlier, right?
Yeah, we talked about film.
Sure. Okay. The size, it's a little bigger, I guess. Whatever. I got the biggest one. Big phones for life.
Yeah, you did.
Awesome. Camera control. It's got that button on the side, and I, to no one's surprise, probably fidget with my phone too much. Like I'll just like squeeze the sides and like tap the back and stuff, just kind of to make it even. Like a little bit of ADD going on there. OCD. Sure, I'm probably just insane. Anyways, I had to turn off the tap back thing because I had that set to a shortcut at one point.
I tried that. So there's an accessibility setting on the phone where you can make it so that you I think it's triple
You
tap.
can do double or triple.
Okay, so basically it can detect when you tap on the back, like just with the accelerometer or something, and then you can trigger actions. Thought that was a really cool idea. I think I started off with that as screenshot, maybe, but I was triggering it way too much.
Yeah,
it just seemed unreliable. It was like either it would happen and I'd be like, oh well, I guess I have a screenshot of that. Cool. But then sometimes I'd want to do it, and I'd be like furiously tapping the back of the phone, and it wouldn't register. Yeah, there's not an actual sensor back there. It's kind of like it's detecting, through some other means.
Yeah, it's hard to. It feels like it's hard to trigger when you want to trigger, and then you are always triggering it all the time. And I absolutely hate like the short videos that you see. They're like, Apple has a secret button on the iPhone that they don't want you to know about. It's hidden in the settings, and it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
come on. Though we did talk about how like you can change the shortcuts on the front of the phone, and how I need to set the action button to like one camera, and then have two different cameras with the shortcuts, and then also have the swipe over as a camera shortcut, and then the capture button as a shortcut, and then also doing double tap and triple tap to camera shortcuts.
That'd be great.
And then I could have access to all the different camera modes from the lock screen.
Clearly, that's what you should do.
Yes. So, camera control, a single click to open up the camera. I was like,
you're constantly opening
the camera. I changed that to double click so fast.
Yeah.
Like after the 5th time I opened up the camera, the first hour I had the phone, I was like, this isn't working. As far as placement, it's supposed to be kind of where you can take it with your thumb or like turn it sideways and take it with your index finger.
Yeah, because they wanted you to be able to use it for both portrait and landscape.
I feel like we've discussed in past that maybe I don't have normal sized hands. I'm a tall guy. I feel like I have proportional sized hands, but I don't know. Maybe like my digits are just the wrong, like not the right shape. For instance, I can't, when playing guitar, I can't like mute the E string with my thumb.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like people do that all the time where they just like reach over and
yeah. I used to do that.
And I feel like my thumb from the knuckle to the other knuckle, like maybe that's too long.
Maybe.
I don't know. And like I can't quite reach with my right thumb all the way to the right side of the bottom, like left or bottom right side of the phone across the way, but you can.
Yeah.
And I just assume that you're normal and proportional. And so
who knows?
Maybe my hands are weird. Anyway, and I'm like doing it right now because I'm holding the phone, trying to press the capture button. It's like just far enough over that it's too far over.
Well, that's kind of what I'd seen in some other reviews. You're holding it landscape right now.
Yeah, like if I'm holding it.
And it does seem like weirdly far over for that.
So if imagine I'm my mom in 2009 and I'm going to use a point and shoot camera. Like, I'm going to go jazz hands. So I'm holding with index finger and thumb, both sides of the phone. All my other fingers are full spread. Yeah. Just full jazz hands. If you're not doing it like this, you're doing it wrong. It's a yellow case, full jazz. Okay. If I'm going to take a picture like this, trying to like get over to get to that capture button puts a little strain on my wrist. Yeah. I mean, it's just
not ergonomic.
And so like you're supposed to be able to like double click into this and you want to like take the picture, but I feel like it honestly, it's awkward.
Yeah.
The button's in the wrong spot. It needs to be like,
well, but the reason, it seems like the reason they did that is because if they had moved it over the way you're saying, when you hold the phone vertically, it seems like it would be too far down.
Yeah. So if I hold it vertically, if I just double click and I want to take a picture, it's perfect. My thumb is right where it needs to be, click, click, click. But if I want to now use the camera control feature where I can swipe to change the zoom or the profile or whatever and use it as like a control mechanism, I can't like, and maybe this is because as for mentioned, knuckle to knuckle distance on my thumb is awkward. Who knows? It's 7 inches. I don't see what the problem is, Daniel. I'm like slender man over here. Anyway, but like if in order to like move the tip of my thumb across it, I have to position my hand down.
Yeah.
Where I can touch the button, I can touch the shutter button on the screen, and I can touch the capture control button, like without adjusting grip if I have my thumb in the right position to do the thing. But now I'm in a spot where it's like just awkward. I'm like weirdly swiping this thing where I'm like, I could just reach over and touch the stupid screen.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in either position, it feels compromised to press the capture button. I super like that it's there. It just feels awkward to use.
Yeah, it seems like like you said, they tried to compromise to make both orientations work, and maybe because of that, it's not really optimal for either.
Yeah. I saw some reviews where people were complaining about how like weird it was to do the half press. Like it wasn't quite like
Well, it
how
doesn't.
how do you find the sweet spot or whatever?
It doesn't feel like a shutter button on a mirrorless camera. Like I don't actually know if there's physical. Like the half press at least does not have the same physical sensation of a camera shutter button.
That is correct. It doesn't quite have the same physical sensation of a half press. For like like an actual shutter button on a camera, it's like you come down the travel and it clicks. Like you feel the click depression, and then you have the second stroke.
They do it in the iPhone. It does it with haptic feedback.
Right. The first one is haptic,
and it's pretty good. I mean, because they've gotten very good at that, but it's not the same.
It's not quite the same. It's not hard to do. And I don't know if that's just because I'm coming from having done enough like half press to focus and then take a picture that just knowing to half press a button is very natural.
Yeah.
And so doing the half press on the capture button, not an issue at all. Like not a problem. My main complaint about it is that it is not halfway, if that makes sense. Like if you're used to...
Is it closer to the top or closer to the bottom?
Top. So if you're used to like shooting like a soft shutter or like a double like a camera shutter, half press is usually half press, and then then you have a full depression after that. This on the iPhone for the camera control thing, it feels like a quarter press.
Oh, okay.
And then 3/4 down to get the button depression. That's a little weird, but fine. Whenever you have the camera control stuff going, you can set it to default to whatever, whether it be like zoom or lens change or tone change or whatever. I've set it to camera change, so it just shifts between the 1x, the 2x, and the 5x and the half.
That's what I would do, because I like the idea of it being zoom, but I would never want to get like 1.7x.
By default, when it's set to just like zoom, where it's changing from like 1 to 1.1 to 1.2, I was frequently finding myself double clicking to get to the capture control, and then now I'm accidentally changing the zoom and then trying to change it back. Now you're just like rubbing your finger across the thing.
Yeah.
The other hack that I've noticed is in the settings, you can tell it to not turn off the screen visuals. So by default, when you start like camera controlling, it hides all controls for the camera, so it's basically only the capture button doing the thing. You can have it not do that and leave all of the camera controls on the screen, which is way better, because sometimes it's easier, like if you accidentally get into a situation where you set it to 1.7 zoom and you just want to get back to the 1x camera, like being able to like with your thumb go boop 1x camera and then take the picture that you're trying to take right now, so much easier than like having to tap the screen to bring back the controls and find the controller, whatever. So I mean, the
big question I have here is, do you think this is better? And do you think that when you take pictures with the camera on this phone, you're going to use that, or are you just going to find yourself going back to the screen?
I have taken away all camera shortcuts everywhere. I've taken it off of Command Center, the lock screen, my home screens, everything, because now I have a button where I can double press it and be in the camera. And so I'm essentially forcing myself into it. Now if I'm double pressing to be in the camera, now I just have to click it again.
But is that how you actually take photos, is pressing the physical button rather than pressing the shutter button that's on the screen?
I haven't taken enough pictures to say. I am very much a person who has taken a lot of photos with the volume button on my phone, because sometimes like, I gotta like take a picture of something, like reach back behind or above or whatever, and it's like I don't want to have to like fumble for the pressing the button. So I am team capture control, not a button, but I do think that it is really, really obvious that this is a first run at this.
Yeah, I'm curious what this will look like on the 17 or 18.
Yeah, I wish it was lower, but like it would be a problem for vertical, and I wish it was higher, and it would be a problem for horizontal. Just feels compromised.
They just need to make it really long.
Sure, why not, dude? Anyway, so that's the camera control. That's where I'm landing on that. Next thing is the Blackmagic camera app. I have been, were you able to get it on the 12 Pro? Yeah, I had the app on the 12 Pro.
Okay, so you had it on the 12 Pro, but I mean, you didn't have a lot of the features like Apple Log. I
have been drooling over Apple Log ever since the 15 came out.
Yeah.
Like so bad. And this is like one of the things that keeps me on an iPhone. I'm an Android user forever, and the video features, we shoot so much video, the video features are just so good. And on the 16, like coming from the 12, so far they seem pretty stinking good. Like,
pretty happy with those.
My gosh. The thing that I'm most happy about is I have already set up 2 different LUTs in the Blackmagic app so that I can record to a Rec 709 profile. I hate the HDR default video out of the iPhone. And it was fine on the 12 Pro Max. Like, it still looked good and I could like get what I wanted out of it. I've shot 2 videos, I think, with just the standard video app on the 16 Pro.
On the new one, yeah.
And it is so flat and HDR-y. It looks horrible. But what looks great is I took a video, I brought it into DaVinci Resolve, and I did a color space transform to transform it into F-Log2, and then I did it again to F-Log1. We'll come back to this. And then I used the F-Log LUT that transforms F-Log into Eterna to have the final output be in like Fujifilm Eterna. And then I output that whole grade to a LUT, and I loaded that into the Blackmagic camera app so that and then I set it so that it bakes the LUT in so that I can open up the Blackmagic camera app and then just start shooting video, and it shoots non-HDR Rec 709 Eterna.
And do you think that that's how you're going to shoot video instead of using the built-in camera app?
It looks so good, Daniel. I love it so much. It's 100% that is what I'm going to do for shooting video.
It's funny because in our last episode, you said that on day 1 of the new phone, you were going to be shooting in Eterna, and here you are.
Within 8 hours. Like, it's so good. And the one thing to note, I've not loved the F-Log2 to Eterna LUT, like shooting on the X-H2S. I like shooting in F-Log2 a lot. It looks really good. But we are always using the WDR, wide dynamic range to 709 conversion, and then applying a grade. Doing a LUT to get to that. The Eterna LUT for F-Log2 doesn't look good in my opinion. I do not like the way it looks. And I think it has to do with the fact that like we were shooting in 14-bit and you have a lot wider dynamic range that it can't quite figure out what to do to get it compressed down to make sense. Whereas the F-Log1 Eterna LUT, I think looks great and looks really close to the Eterna that you get out of camera. And so I tried the F-Log2 LUT for the Apple Log 2, F-Log2, the LUT for F-Log2, and I didn't like the way it looked. And so I went to the one. The one looks great. So if you're going to do this at home and you're going to use DaVinci Resolve to create the blah, 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 you can download the F-Log1 to Eterna LUT just for like the XT4 or the XT3 from Fujifilm. And then you just like create the node and export the 33 cube LUT, and you're rocking and rolling.
Easy.
And DaVinci Resolve also has those Kodak films simulations. And so they have like Kodak 2383, and they have like a few different white balances for it, like D55, 60, and 65. And I think the 65 is closest to the like profile that the Apple Log is shooting in.
Oh, okay.
It's in like 2100, 65, whatever, something. And so the D65 is probably going to be the closest to getting the white balance to match the white balance of the original footage. And I have a Kodak 2383 film LUT also on my Blackmagic app on my phone.
Nice.
And that also looks super duper awesome. And this is everything that I ever wanted out of video on a phone, and I'm so happy.
I'm glad that worked out for you. It seems like you have successfully made it so that you can take advantage of those features without it being like every time you shoot video you're committing to grading it. Like, I think that's an important part of it, that you're baking it in.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to have to. If I'm shooting with my phone, I'm probably not going to want to grade it unless I like really want to grade it. So just like making it in works.
And then if you're ever going to use it as like a B shot for a real video, you can always just turn that LUT off.
Yep.
So.
And my 2 notes here are, when you start recording, it doesn't preview the LUT. I don't understand why.
Weird.
It's just
it sounds like a limitation of the app.
It's previewing it in live view, and then you hit record, and it starts showing log.
I wonder if it just can't do it, like too much processing or something. Weird.
I don't know. Very strange. But then the final version, whenever you go back and preview it, already has the LUT applied.
Oh, okay.
That's strange. The other thing is, how do you set the auto exposure in the Blackmagic app? Can you not?
I don't know the answer to that.
Like, I wanted to set it to auto ISO, but then lock the shutter speed and then let it just cruise the ISO range in order to expose, and I can't figure out how to do that.
I thought you could set all of the parameters to auto, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't really used the Blackmagic app all that much. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
I'm going to be using it so much more.
Yeah.
It's like one of the shortcuts on my lock screen.
Well, I mean, what you figured out with baking in the LUT, I think, does make it a lot more useful, because I pretty much didn't want to use it because rarely am I going to want to grade my phone footage.
I love the way the Eterna stuff looks, and I would love to have that with me all the time to be able to shoot. And like now that I have it, I am just like so happy. I'm about to go to ChatGPT and look up some comparisons to tell you how happy I am.
Well, why don't you do that after this podcast?
Okay, I'm breaking those next week. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna forget. Anyways, okay, so that's the Blackmagic camera app, and just if you have a 15 or a 16 iPhone, just do it. Just do it. Or like make up your own LUT. That's the thing, Daniel. Is like you can basically treat this like a Lumix camera with the LUT button with the Blackmagic app, and like they have the we're gonna get to it in like a second, the tone setting thing. And you can do the same thing over there too, sort of. It's like I can with the iPhone, the new iPhone with all the new controls and the log stuff, I can make the looks that I want and like get the pictures and the looks that I want straight off my phone, which is going to make me want to use it more.
Yeah, I think you're right. And especially now that you can actually set the Blackmagic app to be, the shortcut on your lock screen, like that feels like a pretty big difference. I mean, I know
it's huge.
I know Android's allowed that for a long time, but on iPhone, you haven't been able to quote unquote replace the default camera app, and now you can. So it's like all these features together kind of make the camera a lot more capable.
Well,
and you can get what you want.
They expanded the control center. And so now you can basically put apps in the control center. And so previously you could like pull down and just open up the camera. I can pull down and open up the Blackmagic. So I can just put Blackmagic app and the camera app right next to each other. And when I want to shoot photos, I'll grab the stock app or Halide or whatever. And when I want to shoot video, I'll grab Blackmagic. And like I'm set. This is exactly what I wanted. And
nice.
I'm so happy about it. Okay. They added all those tone setting things.
Yeah, that's basically, I mean, it's sort of like a film simulation type thing for the camera app, right?
It is sort of. I wish there was more to it. It's a little confusing. And there's a few things like you kind of have to know going into it. One is you can set a default. Okay, so there's tone and there's mood. And then there's looks or whatever. And if you're in the camera app and you just start swiping through the moods, you'll have like dramatic and pop star. That's not one of them. But they'll like have names, like Tim's Backyard. And those are like certain looks that already have like tones and color amounts to them. And like the color is it like how warm is it? Is it like a gold warm or rose gold warm or whatever? Is it cool? And then how much contrast is there? Like how much are they flattening out the shadows versus the not shadows? And so they have all these preset looks. And then within those, you can move around left to right the amount of saturation and up and down the amount of like punchy contrastness, like how dark the shadows are. That's a version of it that's in the camera app. And if you find a look that you want, you have to go into the settings and say, don't reset this every time I open up the camera, leave the last setting.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then that look will just be there every time you open up the camera, and that works. The other thing you can do is you can go into these camera settings in the setting, go to the settings app and open up the camera settings. And then you can set a default look. And when you go into that one, it's not the same thing.
Oh,
it's a bunch of color casts, which are like warm, gold, rose gold, neutral, standard, cool, extra cool, or whatever. It's like different
Extra
ranges
cool.
of like how blue, how like gold or warm or whatever, and you can kind of pick those, and then you can pick when you go left and right on the tone map thing, it's the intensity of there's two separate ones. They have a extra control that's like the intensity of the effect. So like how, if you want it to be warmer, how much of that warmer effect, and you can like set that intensity, and then separately you can set the saturation left to right and the tone map up and down for the contrast, and then you can set that up to be default for the camera.
That sounds more customizable, maybe.
But that's totally separate than like the mood modes. And what's not clear is like if you set that up as like your default, is that like that's now standard, and then when we go into the mood modes, it's now like
does it replace
the mood, or do they stack on top of each other?
Yeah.
That's not clear either. Furthermore, when you first get the camera and you're like, I know by default that I'm going to hate the way that the photos look because they keep like boosting the shadows. Just everything is just so flat. You go into the settings to set it, and it's just like it says you need to open up the camera, and you click the button, it takes you to the camera, and it's like I don't know what to do. It won't let you set the things. You have to take 4 pictures with the phone up 4 or more pictures. Then you have to go into the camera settings app, and then you have to select 4 pictures out of your photo library. And then it brings up those 4 pictures to give you them as a guide so that you can kind of look at the 4 pictures and set the tone map based upon those pictures. And
I kind of like, I understand the concept where it's like you need to, have a preview to look at, but it's got to be a better way.
It makes total sense, but the way that it tries to get you to do it made no sense to me. It took me like a few different tries to figure out how to actually go through that function.
Weird.
But when I understood how it worked, I was like, oh, okay. Here's a picture of like me and my wife inside in like a inside lit environment. Here's a picture of my dog outside. And then here's like a building.
Yeah, it's like giving you samples so you can figure out.
And so I was like,
what you
okay,
want
let
to
me
look
pick different environments where I'm going to take pictures.
Yeah.
And then now I can set those tones to be exactly where they need to be and find that sweet spot.
That's cool.
And so I've done that, and I've like got it so that the pictures are going to, for now, look how I want to, which is like a little warm. I did the gold setting, and then I pulled the contrast down and the saturation up a little bit. And so it's kind of like a warm, contrasty look.
I feel like people that don't understand LUTs and, DaVinci Resolve and color space transforms are really going to appreciate this feature because, stuff like Instagram filters, Snapchat, and all that, like people like photos and video that doesn't look standard, and they know what they like. Somebody can look at a filter or whatever, and I like this. And this feels like a more customizable version of that. And I mean, it sounds like it was a little confusing, but I think once you understand how to use the interface, it seems like it's probably pretty approachable in terms of making those changes. And I feel like that's something that like your average phone user is really going to enjoy.
I do think it's a decent like Apple implementation to make it. I think it's more confusing than it needs to be for like the standard person, but it's less confusing than if they gave you a bunch of Lightroom sliders.
Yeah.
Like here is hue and saturation and like contrast and white
Well, I
and
think
dark.
if they had done that, it just would have been too much.
It would have
people wouldn't
been
have,
way too much.
People wouldn't have wanted to do it.
No, the fact that it's just like tone and saturation, I think it's the right compromise.
Yeah.
That it's enough control for the people that want it, like myself, and you can just like totally ignore it if you don't care.
I think it's pretty cool. I wish my phone could do that. It sounds like a neat feature.
Like your phone has like looks, and you can set them as default and say don't change in the settings. But the way that they did it in the pipeline is like you can't change it after the fact.
Yeah.
But with the 16s, it's in a different part of the pipeline. The files are now a little bigger when you take the picture, but because they are making it so that it's like not fully processed, you can then go back and change these looks at any time.
Yeah.
So that's nice too.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. So I'm like 2 thumbs up for the way that they did that. And now I have like my Blackmagic thing set up. I got my camera button set up. I got my like looks for my photos set up. The only thing that I'm missing now is the ability to turn off HDR.
Which you've complained about multiple times.
You can turn off HDR on the 12, and then after the 12, you can't turn it off. I'm like immediately went looking for the setting because sometimes I don't want to open up my phone and look at a picture and be like, this hurts my eyes.
Yeah, only sometimes. Sometimes you do want it to hurt your eyes.
Sometimes I just want to turn it off. I was watching a recent Petapixel video, and they did it in HDR, and I was like, this is kind of giving me a headache just from it being so bright. Because it's bright, and I want to turn down the brightness on my laptop. And so when I dim the brightness, now it starts looking a little weird because it's like trying to, like it wants to give you the brights for the HDR look, but you're saying you're like artificially capping it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite look right. You have to let it be in more of like a neutral position for the screen. But sometimes that's too bright, and you just can't turn off HDR on any of Apple's stuff. They're like shoving it down your throat, and I hate it.
I wonder, I know this obviously doesn't help if you're taking a picture and sharing it with somebody, but if you're talking about viewing it on your phone, I wonder if you'd get different results if you went into the accessibility settings and reduced the white point rather than changing screen brightness.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it's silly that you have to do that. You should be able to turn the feature off.
Yeah. Anyways, whatever. Other things that maybe are interesting to note. I think we've talked about most of the camera stuff. Oh, I haven't done any 4K 120. I think you have to shoot that to an SSD. Is that right?
I feel like there was some sort of thing like that where, like you can do it USB-C externally.
Maybe
but
it's like only if it's ProRes. Or
maybe
like,
so.
I haven't tried that. I do want to shoot some 4K 120. I think that's going to look... I saw some really cool like motion portraits that people don't like. I can shoot 4K 120 like it's a portrait, but it looks super cool.
Huh.
So I want to do some of that. That seems like fun. I need to... There's got to be like I've seen like SD cards and SSD things that you like attach to your phone that also go into the USB-C port for video capture. Mm-hmm. Is there like a MagSafe version of that?
Yeah, I've seen one. Yeah, it looks like a little MagSafe puck that you stick on the back, and then it has a cable that plugs in for USB-C, but it can hold an SD card. Okay. That product does exist.
All right, I need to find something like that for this because I'm real excited about shooting video in that way on the phone and having more space for it. So, because fun. I got the lowest storage.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, I did too when I got mine. Because maybe I have the 256 is the lowest on the Pro Max, and I mean, I figured if I was ever doing like extreme amounts of video, I'd probably want to shoot externally anyway, just because it's easier to get it onto the computer.
And you get more. I think it seems like you get more options.
Yeah.
Too. So I kind of want to figure that out. They announced they were pretty emphatic about their whole like minimum brightness thing. It goes down to 1 nit.
So can you notice a difference?
It's not. No, 1 nit is not that dark.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like 1 nit. Turn all the lights off. I'm like, could be darker.
Could have gone half nit.
Yeah, I don't know what the minimum nit is on the previous iPhones. Like, they don't say that.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe that was 2 and this is 1. That's probably not true. It was probably like 5 or something.
Yeah. I'm surprised. It doesn't sound like much. It sounds like a very, very low brightness.
I was really pumped about that feature because, like, don't use your phone in a movie theater, but, like, maybe you're in a dark situation. Like, you're going to look at your phone. And it would be not, like, 1 nit is pretty dark. It was not as dark as I thought it was going to be. So like if I was buying the phone for that reason, that's not a good reason. That's what was my takeaway.
Have you used it in direct sunlight yet?
Oh man, that's so much better. Oh my gosh,
it was honestly shocking to me when I first used the 15 Pro Max because I kind of had forgotten that they made that improvement. And then I was walking out of a store or something, bright sunny day, pulled my phone out, and immediately was just like, oh wow, I can actually see.
Oh yeah, I definitely like walked outside to test it because inside it caps out at like 1,000 nits or whatever. I think that the 12 Pro Max was 800, and then but when you walk outside in bright sunlight, it goes to 2,000.
Yeah,
and I do like that. In that, like the Samsungs have a like on the brightness slider, it goes up to a certain amount, and then if you go past that amount, it turns orange to be like, hey, you're going into like burn your screen off territory, which my parents-in-law usually had their notes set to max brightness past that point. The screen burn-in on those phones was so bad. Like I look at their phone, I swipe, and I'm like, I can just see icons.
Yep.
Like
I've
never seen screen burn-in so bad. But like you get old and your cataracts get so bad, you basically have to look at the sun to see anything. I'm being so mean.
Yeah,
I love my family, Daniel. Anyways, they just need to be better.
But you like the way it works on the iPhone.
Anyway, so it works great. The new Pixels go to like 3,000 nits. It's like 50% brighter, Daniel.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Pretty bright.
Pretty stinking bright, but you can't shoot log.
Yeah.
So here we are. Anyway, really, really happy about having that maximum brightness. We talked about 4K 120, talked about SSD, talked about the capture button. ProMotion. Oh, right. It has a high refresh screen, which I've been missing for the last 4 years. Oh my gosh. It's like a tall glass of water, Daniel.
Because that's been on Android phones for a long time. iPhones didn't get it until, I don't know, like the 14 or something.
Yeah, I went from a 90 hertz screen to a 60 hertz screen, and I was like, that was noticeable. I'll be fine. But going from 60 to 120, oh my gosh. just swiping through the UI, it's...
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the kind of thing that I don't really notice, but people have said that if you use it and then go back to not having it, you can notice. And if you have a newer phone, you can usually lock the screen to 60 hertz. So if you want to see if you can tell, there's usually a way to do that.
You can tell.
Yeah.
120. There's no going back. I'm so happy about that. I never used the voice memo app, but the voice memo app, I guess, supports transcript because of all the AI stuff.
That sounds useful.
And so for this episode, because I had to do a lot of driving this week or this morning, I was just like voice record my thoughts on the iPhone. And then in prepping for the show, I just read the transcript.
Huh.
Easy. I love that.
That's
now
pretty cool.
voice memo is on my lock screen.
That's pretty cool. I mean, with voicemails, I hardly ever listen to a voicemail anymore. ever since they added the feature to transcribe it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just going to read it. And I can see that being really useful for a voice memo.
Super, super useful. I don't ever want to have to go back and listen to a voice memo, and so I'm never inclined to take a voice memo. But now that I know that I can record it and then read it later.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Huge. And then you can go into the voice memo app, click on the thing, and resume recording. And so like you can just like add on to a recording if you're trying
I think they also added the ability to do multi-track. So I think you can record one thing and then record over it, which like for spoken word that would just be chaotic. But a lot of people use that to do to like put down ideas for music. If you're like writing a song or something. Yeah. So pretty cool feature.
Very cool. Supposedly the microphones are way better on this, and there was a lot of like isolating audio features or whatever. And I do wonder how good those are going to be after the microphones get soaked in sweat or shower water. We'll see how that goes.
You'll be able to tell us
when I spill my tea or my coffee on my phone from using it as a coaster. Yep. We'll see how it is after all of that. Yeah. But in the meantime, there was a video that Patrick Tomaso did where he like recorded all the audio with his phone, and he was like, "Well, the problem is plosives," and so he put a sock on the phone.
I was really wondering what this bullet point that said Patrick Tomaso and the sock meant.
I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
And
did it work? Did it help?
Yeah, it was great. Like it was fantastic. I mean, like it's still a phone microphone, and it's like as good as it can be with all the cool processing and stuff. Like we've seen that over with like shooting with the labs, and then using RX Tool and DaVinci Resolve's like auto like voice isolation, whatever.
You're limited in what you can do, but
yeah, like the software can do so much now with bad audio, and Apple's like now just doing that all by default, and it's cool.
That's good to have.
It makes me like, now I'm like, okay, I can just shoot video on my phone, and I can get the look that I want, and it's going to have decent audio. And I guess like you're not going to get like the audio isolation features because I'm not using the default camera app, but the mics are going to be good. Yeah. And I'm like just really happy with that whole situation. I feel like I'm going to be starting to shoot too much video, but fortunately I have a whole extra hard drive slot in my Synology. So
there you go.
I'm just going to add another 12 terabyte later and we'll be fine.
Feels to me like, I mean, we do all these pro projects, like interviews and stuff, and it's still really hard to picture showing up to do that with like a couple of iPhones, and getting what we would want. Like I just don't see that yet, but it does feel like for casual video, you're on a vacation with your family, you're just doing stuff for fun. Even if you want to like start a YouTube channel where it's mostly going to be you talking to the camera, it really does feel like, new phones, and especially the iPhone with all these features, it feels like it is good enough now and it has the features you need to where you could do that like to a much greater extent than you could with previous phones.
It feels to me like it stretches the gap to my actual camera that I can feel okay with in cases where I'm like, okay, I left my Fuji at home, but now I want to capture this video or this photo. I'm like I'm closer to be able to like bridging that gap. And what I've liked to be like doing in the past, and now I feel like I can do even more, is I like using my phone as a action camera.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how the action mode is, and I know that the stabilization has gotten good, and they added that cinematic mode where it's like stabilized but a smoother whatever. So now you have like three, like standard, stabilized, and action, 3 different ways to control the stabilization on the phone. And I like the idea of being able to like, even like if we were doing like, hey, we're going to capture this event, I can pull my phone out, shoot an Apple log, and do some like action cammy stuff if I don't have the gimbal with me. Yeah. And that's totally going to work and it's going to be fine. Yeah. And so I'm excited to be able to use it more for like action cam style stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what you do with it. 'Cause I think you've always used this kind of stuff more than I have. And I mean, I've liked having those features, but I think you're going to get a lot more use out of them.
It does remind me that I want to borrow your Insta360 for my upcoming triathlon next week.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I want to try to mount that to something for the race. I think it'll be fun.
That'd be cool. Yeah. So I support that idea.
Anyways, one more thing on the Tomaso sock situation. I was like, oh, that's why they added the capture button, because you can, like, if you knitted together a tiny little microphone sock to go on the bottom, like 1/8 of your phone, it's going to cover up the shutter button, but it's not going to be so far that it's going to cover up the capture button, because that's far enough up. So you could put a little tiny microphone sock on the bottom of your iPhone and then use the capture button for all of your camera control.
If you say so.
I was like, that's why they did it.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Yep. So actually, and I've started a Kickstarter, and what it is it's dead cats for the bottom of your iPhone.
That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com, and you can find us on Twitter at CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.